How are you doing, Greta?
Very well. So I guess it's no surprise, but it is terribly disturbing that ICE is recruiting teens from Western Europe and from the United States.
No, it's not a surprise, and you just heard the CIA Director, John Brennan, talk about the use of social media by ISIS. One of the key things that we are going to have to do is finally recognize this ideology, this Islamic terrorist jihadist ideology, and we're going to have to delegitimize it if we're going to be able to defeat the message and the story that they're putting out there. And we have not been able to do that.
Colonel, you sound like a broken record. You say that every time you come on and say we've got to do it. Well, apparently we're not. You know what I mean?
Because I'm going to keep saying it. That's the first thing that we have to do, is to recognize this ideology and not excuse it, not to dismiss it, and defeat that message that they're putting out there across social media, because for some reason it is attracting these young people. And then the other thing we have to realize is that Turkey is not an ally with us in fighting against ISIS, because they are not controlling the flow of men or young women or young men or material going across their border into to help ISIS out. So that's one of the key things we have to do. Put diplomatic sanctions on, put economic sanctions on to separate state sponsors away from ISIS.
Colonel, here's the problem. It's almost like a cancer. It's metastasizing. If you get it early, maybe a little surgery and cut the cancer out. If you don't get it early, then you're into radiation, then you're into chemotherapy, and then you're out of luck. This started with ISIS in Syria. It spread to Iraq. Now they're married with Boko Haram in West Africa. Now we hear they're recruiting from the United States. Then we hear that they're coming out of the Caribbean. Now we're here going out of the United States. We have you speaking up and others about we've got to do something about the ideology. But while you are speaking, and I applaud you for speaking out about it, the problem is this is getting worse. I mean, something's got to be done, because this is not looking good.
Well, you're absolutely right that something has to be done. Unfortunately, I'm sitting here in Dallas, Texas. I'm not sitting in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And this would have never metastasized if someone such as myself were there. Because back when ISIS was only 3,000 soldiers, the reconstituted al-Qaeda in Iraq, I would have recognized it right then, and we would have squashed it before it had the opportunity to go from a stage 0 to a stage 1. Right now, we're dealing with, without a doubt, probably a stage 3, maybe stage 4 cancer. It has spread to 11 to 12 different countries. It is getting affiliations with, as you said, Boko Haram, al-Qaeda in Yemen, even over to Abu Sayyaf, and also Islamic terrorist groups in Indonesia. So this is an entity that is growing, and we're not doing what is necessary to defeat it. It's not about the military solution. It's about being able to defeat that ideology, using our diplomatic and economic strength to separate it out from its state sponsors. And then once we have it, we strangle it and we kill it.
At what point is it too late? I mean, it's, as you know, as we see it sort of spread around the globe, and we see it going, reaching into, homes in America for teenagers, and we see all this going on. I mean, at what point, has it metastasized where, it is just too late?
I think that it gets to the point where it could possibly, I don't think it's ever too late, but it's going to be an almost insurmountable task if ISIS and all the other Islamic terrorist groups, al-Qaeda and what have you, if they do come together, these non-state, non-uniform belligerents that do not respect borders and boundaries, and they are able very easily to launch attacks all across Western civilization. I think that's when we have that untenable situation. We can push it back, but we have to have courageous leaders that are willing to recognize it.
Colonel, when I hear the CIA director saying it's worrisome, I think to myself, that is such a tame word, worrisome. Maybe I'm an alarmist, but I think this is far more than just sort of worrisome. I see this as, an immediate danger that, that we need to be making sure that we're addressing head on now.
It's a clear and present danger, and when you see the United States of America that is not joining in with President al-Sisi of Egypt or King Abdullah of Jordan, we're not standing with those Muslim nations that recognize this threat, and they want to eradicate this threat. And when you hear someone that is the director of the CIA say this is worrisome, that's the language of defeat. That's not the language of victory. That's not the language of leadership. And once again, we continue to have a president that does not recognize this enemy and continues to come up with moral equivalency statements telling us we need to get off our high horse, or going back and trying to quote the Crusades and things of this nature instead of dealing with this clear and present danger today.
Colonel West, thank you, sir.
Always a pleasure, Greta.
And today, 3 minutes.